Hi, and welcome to today's class. And for today's class, we're going to be covering in Unit 18 of our database design assignments P5, M2, and M3. The reason why we're going to cover it this way is because all of these things you can do in one particular activity. That's why we have three back to back. So this is going to give you the step-by-step guide on how to, of course, create the databases, establish relationships, also populate the databases, and carry out queries. We'll have a look at the questions in this assignment, okay? So let's jump straight to the assignment brief first of all. I'm sure you can see my screen. I've had to change uh, the screen recording software so that you will not miss anything. The last one I noticed, you missed out some of the pop-ups and some dialog boxes because of the nature of the software. So this one will definitely show you every single thing I'm doing, including the recording screen capture software I'm using as well. Okay, so let's jump straight to it. We're done with P4. So this is P5, and the question here says devise and test queries using multiple tables and multiple criteria. And this is basically the breakdown of what to do. Now you're going to carry out at least two of these three queries, which should display the following information. Number one, student information, and when you're looking for the student summary, it is student enrollment information, which should include student name, course, program type, admission date, and the second one is course record, and it should include the course, the students on that course, and the program type. And the last one, which is also optional, is the lecturer summary table. Query, lecturer summary query. So that information should include the lecturer name, student names, lecturing hours. And you're required to include validation rules, and you must include at least two validation rules for any of the fields within any of the tables. Student field should be a required field, so that means there must be a student name in that table. Table relationships, you have to build three tables within your database, and you're going to have, in this case, student table, course table, lecturer table, and create relationships between them for the main table, one to one and one to many. These we have covered and we'll go over it. I'll go over this in a series of videos. I'll try and break these videos down maybe into two or three, just so that it's not too long. And then we will move on to importing data from an external source. It's a very straightforward and simple process, and you're going to use the tables you've used that's in the previous task here. So the three tables you're going to create, which is the student, course, and lecturer table, you're going to basically show how to import data from an external source using any of these tables. Then for exporting the data to an external source, the new table that you will be creating will be a full school register table. All of this, you will see it very clearly for you to understand. So you're going to be exporting the information from this table straight out. And let's jump straight into access so that you have an idea of what I'm talking about. You will notice here we've got course table with the information here, student table with also the information. You've got student name, contact address, admissions, and for this table is completion date, but I am going to take out completion date because you don't need that for this particular task. Okay, so this is what had already done previously, just to show you what it would look like when you're done. The lecturer table, student table, course table, and by the time you're done, this is a full register. And the idea of creating all of these tables is so that you can easily just click and drag on any of the items that are relevant to that field, so, or to that particular role, that record. So for example, I have the student names stored in the student register. If you look at the student register, you have the information here. You've got their addresses here. Then the full register here, all you just simply need to do is just click and choose whichever one you want. Here I included a validation rule here to only accept the entry male or female because it's a gender field. Remember in your assignment brief it says to include validation rules for at least two rows or two fields, sorry. So any rule you can apply, but just make sure that you show how to use it and the error that comes up if somebody disobeys the rule, or the person entering the data disobeys the rule, what is the information that comes up. uh, you will notice that all of these drop downs here, it cannot happen unless there are relationships established. So if you look at database tools and relationships here, what I have here are the relationships. Remember we talked about one-to-one relationship, which is, and this is one to many with the infinity sign. So you have one to many relationship here, you have one to one relationship, and so on and so forth. And this is between certain records and tables. So you can see this is student table, this is a full register, and you can see the relationships with the full register. So without further ado, I will basically start a new database, a blank database, so that we'll do this from scratch. So for this one, I'll just call it student underscore reg, or dash, sorry, dash reg, and I'll just have that saved randomly on my document. Okay, so I'm going to I have a Word document that shows the tables you're meant to create. So we'll start with the student registration table, lecturer table, and course table. So let's go back and create. So this new table here, we'll start with saving it, and we'll call it the student table. I'll just name it student. I'll just start with creating the tables first. Okay, so we've got a student table. So I'll create another table, and you can just simply save as, or just right click and rename. And we said it's going to be a lecturer table. So you've got lecturer. This is going to be a lecturer table. You can see it's saved over here, and we'll create the last table. It's going to be more than 3 because the last table, you can right click here and just simply rename. Okay, you cannot rename it from here while it's still open. So if I'm going to use that option, I have to close it first. I'll just do that again. Create table, and let's just use a normal strategy that I've been using so that we don't waste time. Course table. So you've got 3 tables here, and we haven't put in anything, we haven't created any fields yet on each table. So we'll start with the student table here, and what you want to do is move to your design view and populate the table. So this will be available on Study Space for you to use to populate your tables. I need you to create this by yourself. Of course, the information within the tables are flexible in the sense that you can decide to have different names, change the address, change the dates, so it's not compulsory you use the same names. You can also, if you want to, you can change the nature of the task, in the sense that this table here could be about maybe video rental, so it could be customer name, it could be the name of the movie they rented, and it could be also be maybe addresses of the customers or whatever. You can change it, but they must relate. You must follow the principles. The whole idea about this task is understanding the principle behind it, so that you are not just memorizing one particular thing. It's the principle of creation, creating relationships, queries, that is we're trying to reinforce in this assignment, in this task. So here are the names here, and we'll just go back and do the fields first. So the first field is our primary key field, and it's the student ID field. And the next one, and of course remember it must be an auto number. The next one is student name. The next one is contact address. Don't forget short text data type. Access automatically assigns it to short text, and you can change it to whatever else you may want. Admission date is the next one, or is the last one rather, and you change this one to date and time, and we're done with that table. So when we switch over to datasheet, sorry, I had not saved, so that's why it's going to ask me to save before I can move and switch views. So now I have switched views, and this is what it looks like. And don't forget, we have information that we can populate here. Now, why I said that we're going to do P5, M2, M3 in one breath is because when we're creating the course table, we will be importing it. We've created it already in Excel. I will show you that, and I'll show you how to import it. And you must show screenshots of these processes in your assignments, in your assignment submission. So let's move over and populate. So the first information you don't need to put in, just go ahead and put student name. That's on my register. I have Samuel. I'll fill in the other ones later. I'll just put in the names first. So I have Paul. I have Amanda. Because this is recorded, of course, you can always fast forward so that you just move faster once you understand the process of creating what you need to create. So this is just simply clicking and typing. That's all I'm doing. There's nothing special here. So I'll just put in the random addresses. Sheet. Coins Drive. I haven't saved my table yet, so by the time I finish typing, I will save the table with the records in it. Remember where you're going to be copying all of these from. You can actually copy and paste as well, but I just want to type everything manually. So this is the last address I'm putting in. So admission date. Remember, for the data type, we use the date and time data type. So I can simply just click on it and choose date and time. Now, because this is just a test assignment, I can put in any date I want to. I don't need to use what is on the record that's on the assignment sheet record. All of this information are flexible, so you can just put in any random date you want to for the purpose of this task. It's not going to be used anywhere other than just assessing your ability to apply the principles. Okay, so just use all of these dates. Okay, so we're done. I can now save. You can just right click and save, and we're done with the student table. If I switch views, you will see this is what it looks like, and that is that with the lecturer, with the student table. And now we move on to the lecturer table, and we're already in, okay, this is Datasheet View, so we'll go to design view. Remember, I just right click, design. So the first thing, just in case you're confused where I'm getting my information from, I'm getting my information from here. Okay, so lecturer, the first ID, the primary key field will just have lecturer ID. I don't need to space it out. Space it out if you want, no problem. So I'll just put in the names, the fields first. So lecturer ID, then this is lecturer, subject, and the last one is teaching hours. This should be spaced. Sorry for the typo. Teaching hours. And this one, because I want it to just be numeric values, only numbers, I'll just put number for data type. Save that. Then I can switch to Datasheet View. where I now put in the required information. So I'm just going to put in the names of the lecturers first of all on that column. Miss Joy, Mrs. Esther, Mr. Daniel, Dr. Eric. Now you'll notice on the table, I repeated two names because the lecturers are teaching, the same lecturer might be teaching two different subjects. But for this exercise, I'm not going to repeat their names. I'm just going to use uh, just single entities. So I won't repeat Dr. Eric twice. There's no need for that. I don't need to repeat Mrs. Esther twice because she teaches chemistry and biology. And remember, I said I was taking it from here. So you don't need to do this twice. And not, as a matter of fact, you can delete it off the table. You don't need to use them twice. So we're done with the lecturers and subjects. This one teaches IT. This one teaches biology. Next one is she teaches chemistry as well. So I'll put chemistry. To be honest, the information here is quite flexible, like I said. So you can actually put in any random subject if you want to. You're not going to get any minuses for putting in physiotherapy, for example. There's no problem if you put in any random address. Now for the teaching hours, I'll just put in numbers. Remember, the data type here is numbers, so I'll just put in random numbers of hours: 2, 1, 3, 1, 2, and I'll just say save. Okay, so we've successfully completed two tables, and if we move to design view, this is what you have, and so you can see we've completed this table and this table. Now for the course table, this is the part where we'll be covering the M2 aspect. I want to import my course table instead of creating it like I created the student registration table and the lecturer table. Okay, so to do that, I'm going to move over to Excel and show you what I did. Now in Microsoft Excel, you're simply just going to make sure you design your table according to how you want it to appear in Access. So for example, if you want, let's go to this lecturer table. You must make sure that if you have lecturer ID, it must be lecturer ID spelled exactly the way you want. Now this is especially the case if you want to import additional information to this table that has been created already. So if for example you have additional lecturers, somebody has given it to you in Excel, you must make sure they put it in the same format so that when you're importing, it will just add to the information. Okay, otherwise it will give you errors. So this course table here, as a matter of fact, I don't need to have created one here. So let me close this and delete this so now you have lecturer and student, right? Now we're going to get our table from an Excel sheet, which is this. The Excel sheet has the format that we want to use, which is course ID, course, program type with all the information in it. So all you just simply need to do is in Excel, you go to external data, and under external data, when you put your mouse over it, oh sorry, you're meant to import new data source from file, new data source. We'll still come back to this option here when you want to export your table, your records. This is what we use, but for now, from file, I will choose Excel. I said new data source, file. Now where am I getting my Excel sheet from? So I'm just going to browse and search for where I saved my information. make sure wherever you have your Excel sheet, you need to create an Excel sheet, and in that Excel sheet you will have to do everything that I'm showing here. So now I have tables here. This is for previous examples, but this is a cost table I want to import. So I'll say open. You can save your table, and you're the one that will create your own cost table. Please, I am not going to give you the Excel sheet. So I'm giving you this Microsoft Word sheet. You can just simply do this, type this information in your Excel sheet. You can simply copy and paste it, save that file where you need to save it, where you want to retrieve it from, and make sure you know where the location is. Mine is on a USB, and this is a location. That's why I browsed first. I searched for it. I chose course table, open, and here are the options you have here. It says import the source data into a new table in the current database. This is the database we're working with, and we haven't created a course table. So this is what we want to do. Otherwise, if you had already created the table and you just want to update the information there, then you would choose append a copy of the records to the table, and you can see that you have the tables already created just to add additional information to it. But in this situation, we just simply want to create a new one. Okay, so we're importing and we say okay. This is what comes next. You have a preview and you have everything that you want from here. Remember, this is the information we're working with, and it's already in Excel. And from Excel, you can see that that is the layout, that's the format we have. And here it's showing us everything. So it says here, the first row, does it contain the column headings? That's the first row, and that's what happens. Yeah, and that is, this one contains the column heading. So we'll say next. So now you can specify information about each of the fields you are importing. Select fields in the area below. You can then modify field information in the field options area. Now the field names, you've got three fields: course ID, course, and program type. And you've got the uh, data types here. Now you will notice that here you don't have auto number here. You can leave that out for now. Just leave it. You can leave it with under integer for now. Duplicate index, you don't need to change anything. Do not import any you don't need to check this box, so just leave it as it is, like this, and you go to next. Now you say let access add primary key. If you say yes, it means that it will add additional one, but you already have your primary key field. So you say choose my own primary key, and the primary key is asking you what option do you want to take. And as you know, we created course ID as the primary key column here. So just go to next. And what is the name of the table? So remember, I deleted the other one I created because it's only when I want to append to it. It means I've already created a table within Access and I want to update the information within Access. That's when I would have that would have applied in that situation. But in this situation, we just say import to table. Okay, and this is the name of the table, course table, just course. I don't want it to analyze it after importing it, so just finish. So you don't need to save import steps, just close. So let's switch over and see what we have. Voila, you've got your table created with all the information within it. So if you've done everything up to this point, the first two steps, we created student table, lecturer table, just by simply creating the tables here and populating the tables. But for the course table, we actually went to external data, new source, from file, from Excel, and we imported an Excel sheet which was already created in the format that we're supposed to have it in Access. So we had course ID, course program type, and we imported it into Access. So that's what we've done for now. Now there's one more table that we need to create. Now if we look at the Microsoft worksheet that I'm going to make available to, sorry, it's going to be in PDF, by the way. This is what you're supposed to have. This I will show you how to create now. The full registration table, that's the last table you're meant to have. So you go to, oh, apologies for that. You just simply go to home. You're going to just create a new table. Create. So pardon me, it will just create. I just wanted to create a table. Create table. Oh, silly me, I've created two tables already. So I just need one. And this table here, I'm going to save and call full registration table. So this is going to be our full registration table. And in our full registration table, what we're supposed to have is we're going to have more information on that register, because that register is what is the actual information that makes all the information we're putting together makes sense, because it's a student registration table and it's meant to have the student's name, the gender, the course, the program type, admission date, student contact address, lecturer, subject taught, and all of that. Now, this strategy in creating tables and establishing relationships is most ideal, especially when you have information that you know is in not all information are permanent in nature, but you know that the tendency of changing the content will take a long while. For example, not people do change their names, but not all the time. It doesn't happen frequently. People don't change their names every day of the week, for example. So if you have students registering in a school and you're putting down their names in a register, you know that that information is going to be there probably until they finish their course or their program. So you want to create a table where you know that you have student information, a separate table, so that when you want to use that same table in another database, all you just need is, I just need a student registration table, and export it to another application, maybe another kind of database you're trying to create or design. So what I'm saying is student name and lecturer names, those are more like permanent information, because the lecturer works with that. Of course, we know the lecturer can leave, at which point you can decide to now delete the person's information from that database. There's flexibility for that. But what I'm trying to make you understand is the reason why this strategy is good, to have a student table separate from a lecturer table and a course table, is so that when you're doing a full register, all you're needing to do is just select which student, and that option, uh, you just choose that option and you move on. Okay, enough said. Let's just get down to the nitty gritty of it. So let's go to design view, and for our full registration table, the ID here, the ID column will have full student ID. That's what I'll name it as, full student ID. And it's going to be an autonomous because our primary key field. And the next one is student name. I'm going to have gender here. They're all going to be short text for now. Yeah, course, program type. Yeah, I just remembered something. I'll have to refer back to this. No, I'll have to undo this. Sorry, there's a mistake. Um, because we're going to be using the information from these tables, right? There's no need for me to create them like this, and I'll show you why. So first things first, let me undo what I've just done, and I'll take it one step at a time. Okay, so I've deleted the rows, just save that table. Okay, so let's move to Datasheet View. Now on Datasheet View, okay, on Datasheet View, you will notice that the first thing there is student name. Let's go back to, so you have student name, you have gender, course, program type, and so on and so forth, right? Now, since we have a student register, because we have a student register, the first thing you're going to do is click to add, right? And instead of creating like I was doing earlier, I'll say lookup and relationship. You click on that. I want to look up field to get the values from another table or query. We want to get it from the student table. That's why I'm choosing that. Now, if I wanted to type in the values manually, I would have to choose this, but this is what I want to do now. You go to next, and it's asking you from what table do you want to get the values from, and in this case, it's our student table. You click on that and you say next. On your student table, that particular field is student name field. Remember, this is the field we're trying to create. This field here for student name. That is why here we want to work with student name. And you just click on this button and it moves over here and you go to next. Just no need to change anything, just say next. So you can see the options there. Hide key column, don't uncheck it, because if you uncheck it, it's going to bring out the student ID and we don't want that. We just want only the student name column. So you choose next. And the field, now this is where you name the field, which is student name field. That's the name of that column. Now, when you say enable data integrity, you can cascade delete. Now, what happens is if information on the student register changes, if the person changes their name and you update it, you want a situation where the full register automatically updates. So if somebody, for example, now becomes uh, she marries a lady marries and her last name changes, you want a situation where when you update the student register, the full register, you don't have to go to the full register and edit it. All you just need to do is go to the student register, edit it, and that will be fine. It will just register the information there. So, and if you delete the information there, you want a situation where it's deleted on the main register as well. So cascade delete and finish. So the lookup field was not created. The database engine could not lock the table student because it's already in use by another person or process. The reason why I want you to see this information here, this pop-up, is because if you do get this kind of error, this is how to get around it. You cannot create a relationship when the table is open. So I wanted to create a relationship with this table here, and the table was open. So I need to close it first. So I've closed it, and I think I'll just close lecture as well. Then I'll do that again. I'll repeat the same process again. Click to add lookup and relationship. I want to look up a field. Next. Table is student. Next. And it's the student name I want. Next. 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 And this field should be called student name. Enable integrity, cascade delete, finish. So you can see it works now. So if you want to put in information here now for student name, you see the options are here, and that's because you have created a relationship between that and the student table. The next field you're going to put in is the gender field. The gender field doesn't have a table of its own, so there's no need for you to use lookup and relationship, right? You've got two options of doing this. You can just leave this manually to be typed in, or you could choose this. Let's try this option. Lookup and relationship. I want to use I'll type in the values, and I say next, and the first one will be male, and the next one is female. Okay, those are the two options, and I say next, and the name of the field is gender. Okay, limit to lists. Okay, so this is the option here, so you can just decide to use that option so that you can use that drop down. If you decide to go with typing in a value, right, here this acts as a validation. If you type in a value, it will not accept it, but if you say yes, let it add it, it will definitely add it. Now this is where we will put in our validation rule. We're going to apply a validation rule here so that nobody can put in anything other than male or female. So we're done with student name, we're done with student name, we're done with gender. Cost. Do we have a table for cost table? Yes, we do. So we can just create a relationship. Now, before we create a relationship, remember when I was importing this. Let's move to design sheet view. This was I couldn't change this to auto number. Now here you have the option to auto number, and see what happens when you try and change it. The problem with importing, when you import a table and you want that primary key to be changed to auto number, it will refuse it. Now, but there's a way to go around it. Now, this is a primary key field. All you need to do now is you can just, first of all, insert a row. When you insert a row, just name this. You can delete this one. Okay, it's a primary key field, so it will not, you have to switch it first. So what we'll do is we'll do course ID and now change this to auto number and make this the primary key field. Now that it's the primary key field, let's delete rows, and you can see it's gone. So I can change that course ID. Okay, remember, if you try and name fields the same name, it could give you an error message, and this is what I mean by that. Let me just insert a row and let's see if it accepts duplicate fields. So you can see it's saying allows only one or two number field. Okay, sorry, this was the data type it was complaining about. Let's see what happens if you duplicate. So you see you already have a field name course ID. So for those of you that might think maybe you might run into a problem like this, you should not duplicate the name of a field. That's what I was just trying to show you here. Okay, just to show you that you shouldn't have duplicate field IDs. Okay, so I've saved that for the course table, and you have this information there. It's still intact. So we just want to create a relationship between the full registration table and the course table, and the first thing we need to do is close that table. Remember what happened with the student table. We cannot do the lookup relationship if that table is open. So we'll come here, we'll say lookup and relationship. So you go to next. I want to look up a field from another table. So what table are we working with here? If you say course, then you're correct, because we're talking about course table. So go to next. What do we want to put there is the course itself, as you can see here, course. So we'll choose a course column, and you go to next, and you name it course. Sorry, typographical error. Enable data integrity. Now for the course, yes, let us enable data integrity, because I want to show you something. Maybe for the lecturer table, I will not apply this and you'll see the difference. Okay, so cascade delete, and we'll finish. So we're done with this, and you can see that the options are there already. Yeah, at this point I'll just save my table just in case. So we're not done yet with the full registration table. We still have all of this to include. So program type, we do not have a table for program type, so we'll just create since we have only 3 programs there. If you look at this, you have degree, diploma, and certificate. So let's just create a drop down option. I will type in the values that I want. So we'll have diploma, degree, and certificate. Yep. Next, and it's program type, the column name, program type. Okay, I want it to be limited to the list so that it will have to verify if you should add. So I just want to restrict it to that. So program type, and I say finish. So you can see the program type here. The next one here is the admission date. Now the thing about admission dates is date is something that is basically that can be chosen easily from a calendar. So it's either, but in this case the dates relate to students, so admission dates vary and they relate to specific students. In this example, there are different ways this can be done, but in this example, because we already have admission dates in the student register, if you look at the student register, you have the admission dates. We'll just establish a relationship and link it here. Okay, so I'll close that first, come back here and just click on lookup and relationship, then next, student table, next, and admission date is what we're dealing with. Say next, 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 and I'll just type admission date. Enable data integrity and cascade delete, so that when you delete it from the student table, everything will be deleted from that information will also be deleted on the full registration table. So we'll finish that, and you've got the dates there. So it means that when you check your you can select any date, and we're using this for purpose of just carrying out this task. But ideally, of course, you can't tell which student came in what date. So that means you will depend on your student register, which you have here, to verify that. Okay. So that's why I said ideally you just have that date, a calendar there, so that you just choose any date as long as it's a valid date for that person. Okay, what is next? We have student contact address, lecturer, subject. So we have this four to go. Student contact address. What table is that from? I can hear you shouting. It's from the student table. So contact address, next, next, next. Student. I'll just put address, student address. Enable. Now this one, I will not enable data integrity here. I will just leave it at that, so that I can update it anytime in the full register, because the student can easily relocate. So the next one is the lecturer. So we do have a lecturer table, so we'll do the same thing. Lookup and relationship, next, lecturer table, next. So it's the lecturer name first of all that we want there. So next, these are the lecturers, and you just put lecturer. In this case, I'll enable, okay, I said I wasn't going to enable data. I've done that for this already. I'll leave this one. I will not enable data integrity here. So we're done with lecturer table, subjects. For the subjects taught, we already have that on the lecturer table. So lookup and relationship, and you do the same thing. Lecturer, next, subject, next, next, subject taught. I'll put subject taught just so it's clear. Here I will enable data integrity and cascade delete. Finish. And the last one is teaching hours. So teaching hours here, it's already there on the lecturer table. So lecturer, so you have teaching hours there. Now in most ideal situation would be just leave that blank and make the data type for that just numbers, so that you can just put it manually. Okay, there's no need for you to have, because you can see the hours is just between 1 2 3 1 2 3. So this is okay, but it can just be better left the field blank, so that people manually enter the number of hours. So I'll just put teaching hours here. Let's enable data integrity for this one, cascade, and finish. Okay, so from what is expected of you, this one here, what you have in this document, all of this are just sample information just to populate the database based on the tables you've created. Okay, so they can always change, and this is here so that you know how to create what column comes next and what fields should come after the other. So we're done with this, so just save this. when we save this, you will you can switch to your design view, and this is what you have. Now, I told you I want to put a validation rule for the gender. For the gender database, earlier on we created different validation rules, and you can just say here you want just male or female only. So male or female. That's for the gender column, right? And save it. Okay, because I had already entered information there. Now, I was going to switch to Datasheet View. So with this one here, if you try and type in this particular one, this is what it says. Do you want to edit from the list? Do you want to edit the item from the list? If you say yes, then you can add. Now, the validation rule, if I had not used this, let me just do a quick example for you here so that you see how you apply on design sheet view. So let's add gender here, for example, right? And it's short text, and I save it. Okay, sorry, I actually broke my own rule here, so I'll just say gender example. I'll delete this, so that's, and I'll save it. So for the validation rule, I said male or female. Save it. Okay, it's rejecting this rule. Oh, sorry, it's not rejected, it has actually accepted it. So gender, okay, it actually accepted the rule the first time. Sorry, I didn't read. I was trying to hurry up. I didn't read that error. It has actually accepted the validation rule. So this is how you test your validation rule. I'm taking the time to. Now here, for example, this is gender example. So if I put boy, see what happens. And I click outside, so it gives you this error message, and it says one or more values are prohibited by the validation rule, male or female, blah 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 blah. So already you can see it has taken effect, so that means you have to put either male or female. So if I put male here, and you can see it has accepted it. If I put female, it also accepts it. Okay, so you can see it has accepted it. So this is just an example. So let me see here. If I decide, because I'm using a different approach here, I put in the information so that you can just select here, and it has its form of validation as well. That is why when I do this is what it says. You say, do you want to edit the item on the list? Let's say okay and see what happens. So now you see, if you choose that, that is when the validation rule comes up. So you can still work with this, okay, but you have to demonstrate that your validation rule has taken effect. Now this validation rule has taken effect even though I've added it to the list, the drop down list, and it's saying you must take either male or female. So I will show you also for the pop-up messages. You can decide to, let's switch to design view. Now here you have validation text here. Put the validation text here that says please you can only enter male or female. Okay, let me correct that spelling. Please, you can only enter male or female. So that is what I'm going to use there. I'm going to save it and switch. So when you come and put this, for example, see what comes up. It says please, you can only enter male or female. So we've done, from your assignment brief, remember it says you should include validation rules, right? You must include at least 2 validation rules for any of the fields in the database. So you can go ahead. The last example I gave you you created a validation rule for maximum amount of text, so you can apply that for any of the fields you want to. You can use it for your student name or whichever table. Just make sure you apply two validation rules. Okay. Now this I don't need. I just did this to show you, to demonstrate something to you. So I'm deleting that. So you should have just this. Okay. So we're done here now. And the last bit before we go to queries is you look at your database. So when you come to database tools at the top here and you click on relationships, see what you have. This is what I have here. Now, because the full registration table now, you can see this is one-to-many and one-to-one relationships. Let's just spread this out so that, so you have this here, this here. Just arrange it. I don't want the lines to cross, so I'll just lay it out something like this. And I don't want to do something like this because it relates more to admission. Okay, let's open this up. Good. It's a teaching house. Let's see if this can switch. Good. Just so that the layout, when you take a screenshot of this, this is above this one. I'm just arranging this so that it looks more organized, right? So if they can all stack up nicely like this, that's fine. You can actually click and drag and even reduce the sizes and take a screenshot of this, because now you've shown, demonstrated by doing this, that you've been able to create tables and relationships. And you can always edit the relationships when you double click on this and you say enforce integrity, cascade, delete. You can also say cascade updated related field. So when it's updated, can be updated. Well, it's open. That's why my full registration table is open here. So I need to close that, cancel, close that, come back here, double click on it, cascade update field, and I say okay. You can see it has accepted it. This is a one-to-one relationship, and if you open, double click on it, you can see I didn't enforce referential integrity. And I said the reason why is because I'm going to show you when you populate. Let's go ahead and populate our field, but you need to take a screenshot of this, right? And make sure you save your work. Now let's go to full registration table and let's begin to populate it. Now we're just going to put in random information. Okay, so Samuel is a male, and the course, I'll just choose any course. A program type here, I'll just choose any one. Admission date, I'll choose any dates. Remember I said all the contents here are flexible. You can actually give any address, or you can just work with what you have from here and say, okay, this is Samuel's address, so just put it there. But you will not get any extra points, or you will not lose any extra points. I mean any points for not doing that. So you can just, the important thing is just populating information. Okay, so we've done one. So put Paul, female. Oh, sorry, Paul. Obviously male. Psychology degree. Like I said, you can always fast forward this. Okay, I'll do that for Amanda as well, female, biochemistry. She's doing certificate program. I'm taking time to populate this so that when we're doing our query, it will have options. So Caroline here, who's a female, I'll put her under ICT again. So we have two students under ICT. We have two students doing a degree. And lastly, let's take Audi. Now, here's ideally in a standard table, you'd want to have the first name, second name, so that you can differentiate between individuals. Like here, we have two Carolines. This is just for the purpose of examples, but ideally in a professional table, you should have first name, second name, so that you have something to try and differentiate. I know that some people have the same first and last names, but other properties can be used to distinguish between them. Mainly, actually, the primary key helps to differentiate between them. Anyways, that was just by the way. So I'll put this on the psychology. So we have two students doing ICT and two students doing psychology, and I'll put on a degree. Okay, so we'll just work with this for now. I'll just save it. So now you can see the information here. Now, the reason why I took the time to do all of this is so that I will show you uh, what happens. How to export information. Remember, I've shown you how to import. Now I'm going to show you how to export. So when you put your mouse here and you see Excel, we're exporting to Excel. So click on Excel and it will ask you where do you want to export it to. So you choose a destination. So full registration table is what my table is going to be called. And the file format, you can change it here, but we're just working with Excel workbook. Now, these are the options you have. Export data with formatting and layout. That is what I want, and I want it to open it when it finishes, so that we'll verify. Now, you can also choose to export selected information if you want to. When for this example, this is all we're going to be working with. So when you say OK, you wait for it to open, and there you go. That is all. You're done with exporting. So you need to take a screenshot of this. Okay, so the same way you export it, you can also import it somewhere. So if somebody gives you just an Excel file and forgets to give you the database file for whatever reason, you can just simply import it using the option here. Now you don't need to save the export steps. You don't need to. So you have your import using here and using this option here from a file or from a database, or you have the option of exporting by using the Excel option. Okay, so we'll end this video here, and the next video will be on queries, how to carry out queries. Sorry, I said I wanted the video to be short, but it is what it is. Apologies for that. So see you in the next lesson.